Hey guys, this is On Boku and
The janitorial jackass Jherick, hello.
we're coming at you with the review of Legion of Superheroes. We recently watched the next episode of Chain of Command. I think it was 10 or 12. I forgot to write down the numbers stupidly, but that is where we are on. And I know I told you in my thing for the start of the year how I would do things differently, but I will still leave these up for Jherick to start to give his way in. So take it away, Jherick.
Yeah, I like this one because we get to talk about Lightning Lad.
Pretty much.
Yeah, we've actually I think this is one of the more kind of backstory focused ones we've had thus far.
Well, yeah, if you wanna call it that, because I mean we get it, and you feel it. They don't say much, but you feel it. But this is essentially the planet where Lightning Lad is, and you see a little thing where you do get to see his home, even though it's funny how that's the only farm in the area. No, the
Yeah,
tornado's targeting the one farm in this planet.
which is kind of weird considering they mentioned this is supposed to be like the biggest agriculture plant. This is basically space Ukraine.
you know,
That's
whatever
all it is.
whatever Lightning Lad's family name is, we're basically going to say this is why we told you not to put your farm topside because of damn solar storms, but we built ours on the ground, so we'll say, oh God, the rocks closing the wall. Well, none of us were slaves, some bitch.
This is like Wizard of Oz, you know, it's Kansas and yet somehow there's only one farmhouse in the whole fucking state.
Yeah, well,
And the
planet
Wicked Witch
even.
manages to find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a whole lot of nothing out here. Oh look, there's a farmhouse with a girl who could potentially kill me. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun.
And what I'll say is though too, even though they don't go into explanations, you do feel it, the emotional impact of this one for Lightning Lad, and
Oh yeah.
and for everybody. There's a whole, like, you see why it's called Chain of Command. I'll let Jherick go into that more. But what I like about it too is the personal effects this is for Lightning Lad, and you feel it. And all I know is that the family thing is for someone who has a hard chip on his shoulder, he really does care about his family. Probably even as we've seen him from two different episodes now, his bit of a loser, villainous anti-hero brother who doesn't seem to care about him. But again, I think that's his own way of hiding his own baggage, versus what we know of Lightning Lad's real name, Garth's Lightning Lad's baggage. But I mean, hey, even in the picture, I'm the older brother and I'm brooding, and there's my two twin brother and sisters all happy.
Well, yeah, I mean, if any of you grew up in farm country, the fact that his name is Garth should be a huge tip off, because who the heck names their kid Garth in the city?
Well, what does he call his older brother? Isn't it Valron? And I'm like, okay, see, that's sort of like the classic Star Trek alien name with the hyphen or apostrophe and then the added thing. But Garth, gee golly gosh, Garth there, and then, well, hey, Superman Clark Kent lays it on thick. This planet's a farm. You're a farm boy. And what did he say? Industrial agrarian or something like
Agricultural agrarian technician.
that?
And speaking of that you mentioned that, it's actually kind of funny because, we've seen Lightning Lad try to give, Superboy a little bit of a hard time for being a Kansas farm boy and, kind of being out of his depth. Well,
Multiple times.
and it's funny that, Superman finally, I mean, well, Superboy, I guess, at this point in the time period, but, he is like, you're a farm boy? And I love how after he says that, you can see, like, the look on his face and the attitude is like, Clark clearly has seen this before. Clark being a farm boy, he's seen this before, and he knows how much this kind of like stings for him. So he actually drops it right there, which is a real sign that you can tell that there's this kind of unspoken thing with him now. Because if you work blue collar, if you work the farm, if you do anything that is not like white collar work, yeah, you get sick and fucking tired of the goddamn upper crust pop collar motherfuckers being like, oh, look at you, janitor. It's like, hey, sanitation engineer, motherfucker.
Yeah, well, what's
Or the
sort of
whole just put the fries in the bag. It's like, yeah, whatever.
like Big Bang Theory, which I know we haven't reviewed any of those yet, though, too. But it's like how everyone there is a professor or a doctor
Yeah.
level, and they all come in and say, the professors come in and say doctor, doctor, doctor to each other, and then when they get to poor Leonard, who has a big degree in MIT and is just as equally important as them, Mr. Hofstetter, and they always accent the Mr. like you're less
Mm-hmm.
important than this, and he always has to go, I have a degree in MIT, not the same thing, and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
to me, even though you guys have doctorates, that guy is at that university with you with just as equal amount of thing, just two different levels. But I guess from what I've heard from watching some of the audio commentary, that's how professors and doctorate doctors treat the other people who don't have a doctorate or a professor degree. But then again, that could open a whole bunch of political worms. We'll probably save that for other movies or even that show when we get to it. So we're not going to get into that.
Well, and you know what's funny about that idea? Kind
What's
of
that?
ties back to one of our earlier reviews for Chernobyl. Look
Yeah.
at the scene where like the lady's talking to the guy who runs the power plant, and she's like, "I know you. Before this, you used to run a shoe store. Yes, and now I'm in charge of this fine facility, as you can see." It's exactly the same thing. It's like this is why you kind of don't go out of your way to piss off the lower rungs of society, because yeah, go ahead, talk shit to the dude making your burger at McDonald's. Just don't be too surprised when the secret sauce isn't the right one.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, food service workers will do that a lot if you piss them off.
Well, yeah. Well, why do you think that's been a running joke in books, movies, TV shows,
Oh,
and things
yeah.
like that? Because there is obviously been some truth to that. So, but hey, getting back to the episode at hand.
But
as
it's
we
just
went on
kind of
topic.
cute to see, Superboy finally get his clap back on
Oh
Lightning
yeah.
Lad.
Oh yeah.
And yet, the second he realizes how much that insult stings, because he probably knows a lot of kids from back home on the farm who are like that, he drops it. Which, again, shows that Clark is a very good person.
Well, yeah.
And he understands exactly how Lightning Lad is feeling right now.
Well, and what I look at it as, since because I don't think we've ever talked to you guys about this. I think we mentioned how this show was made by some of the same people who were a part of the Batman animated series, whether from the beginning or the third season. And third season came a animator slash producer by the name of James Tucker, who worked on the third season, Batman Beyond, worked on the Justice League. So he was the one of the main producers of this show, and I think the only one of the original people to work on the show. And I think you could tell the way he was shaping Lightning Lad, and especially where Quark dug in there. It's like the entire time I saw that scene, because it just hit me now, the way I was thinking about it again, it's like, this is how his relationship with Batman is going to become.
Yeah.
I'm going to dig at you, you're going to dig at me with your one-liners like Lightning Lad is, and I'm just going to have fun with
Well,
it all
that's
the way.
But that's everybody's relationship with Batman at this point. So.
Well, yeah.
But another neat thing about this, and part of the reason why he's extra uptight in this episode, I mean, you actually see him trying to act very professional in this one. Aside from the fact that it's his home world and his family is there, is there's something about Lightning Lad we probably have only lightly touched on before, and that's despite being one of the leaders of the Legion of Superheroes and arguably the field commander on Earth, and one of the core members, he's also one of the only ones that isn't to some degree a celebrity or royalty. I mean, I've probably mentioned this before, but like almost everyone else on the entire league has something that really sets them apart from like damn near everyone else. Like, we'll see him later on in the episode. Pharaoh Lad is, well, let's just say there's a reason he wears the mask and why he's basically the team's Colossus. And, what's her name? Saturn Girl. Saturn Girl, if I remember, comes from one of the better families on Titan, which is basically where her people come from. And they're all psychics, but if I remember, like, her family in particular is one of the better ones there. Phantom Girl's family basically is the highest ranking nobility in the galaxy right now.
With her mom being the president.
Yep. And I mean, Cosmic Lad, who we're going to be seeing later, yeah, let's just say the dude's a little bit of a big deal for multiple reasons.
One, again, you mentioned how Cosmic Lad, we're going to see him later, that's who introduced us to Pharaoh Lad, which had Lightning Lad sort of ticked off in the first place. And he literally goes, when he's still with Superman and Colossal Boy.
Yeah.
When he was with Superman and Colossal Boy, he's sort of sulking, saying, you don't just bring somebody in, you do it together as a league. He didn't even get initiated by us like the recent, because if you guys remember, this is only 2 episodes after they brought in Matter Eater Lad, and who was the other one?
Timberwolf.
Well, not just Timberwolf, The prison
Oh,
dude. Not the color changer dude, but the other guy.
yeah, I forget his name.
Yeah, but you guys know who we're talking about. They
Yeah.
brought in those two guys, and funnily enough, that's where we saw Colossal Boy and a couple other of the Legion in the
Yeah.
background because they brought back a lot of the Legion for that. So again,
So it's kind of a thing because like if you know like you mentioned they didn't really take a vote on it or anything. So it's just kind of he kind of feels like Cosmic Flash just going way above the chain of command, even though he technically at this time is the leader of the Legion overall.
yeah, and also to get into it for you to lean off of. Most of the superheroes are on the planet trying to fight this, and also because it's an important note, Triplicate Girl and Bouncing Boy are still on the Legion ship, flying around doing things from the air, just observing the storms. Because nobody knows how this geostorm started, but at the beginning,
Yeah, they also,
Brainiac 5 and all of them say the storm is more powerful than any storm they had. So they're wondering, was this natural or did something happen to cause this, which will factor in later possibly.
yeah, because they mentioned like the equipment they have there is I think they said it was like up to it could handle like up to 3 gigatons of like electrical storms, and I think the one they're dealing with is like 9 plus. So
Well, they said it was over like 500 or 600 plus. Could have reached 9 plus, but they didn't stop it.
yeah, and it's again like they said, this is allegedly the planet that produces something like upwards of 80% of the agriculture for most of the galaxy. Again, space Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's an important and big deal, and I do love that they have like this high tech underground bunker, for like all the workers and everything. Because again, it's farmland, it gets a lot of electrical storms, so of course you're gonna get some crazy ass tornadoes and other bullshit like you would have to deal with if you were out in farmland. And it's actually pretty cool. We see them trying to work together, but again, Lightning Lad is a impetuous, reckless, hothead, and Cosmic Lad has, and this is something I do love that Lightning Lad brought up. He's basically been away for a very long time, mostly engaging in diplomacy, and it's kind of funny that we find out at the end of the episode he's voiced by Will Wheaton, because
Yeah.
he's a handsome little Twinkie looking boy in purple, which for those of you who watch Teen Titans, he voiced Aqualad. Mister. Oh, he's
Yeah.
so dreamy.
Well, again, that was just a funny thing between, and again, Raven was a part of that too. As much as we want to say Raven doesn't do that,
Yeah.
poor Beast Boy. No, Starfire and Raven were all over the
Yep.
guy, with the other three being.
And it gets even worse when you get the other auxiliary members like little the B girl and the other ones. So, but yeah, because again, whereas Purple, Twink, all the ladies love him. Gosh, Mr. Will Wheaton, are you having trouble getting the pussy in real life, I wonder? Not crushing it like you thought you would? Shut up, Wesley. Anyways, yeah, and it's kind of true, because, I mean, again, this guy's probably great at space diplomacy, but as you can see, he's not exactly good at understanding his team, because he's, kind of rubbing people the wrong way, not understanding what they're thinking. I mean, Lightning Lad, we all know he's going to kind of run off and do his own thing. He's sort of the shadow of the group, but he doesn't realize he's kind of doing that to everyone. Like he's trying to hold the reactor together, which he's having trouble with. Which kind of fair point. Got the massive electrical storm probably given bad feedback against his magnetism powers. And yes, this guy does have magneto abilities.
Well, and like you said, because you brought that up, what causes that too is, if you remember, Pharaoh Lab was trying to piece together one of the generators. One of the generators overloaded, which connected with another new lightning strike, which caused the whole generator to overload and explode. Which then had to have Brainiac 5 build a brand new generator from his thing in a quick thing, and all the same time, Cosmic Lad is trying to just keep this thing together. But where you also see him like where the fair point to where Lightning might have called him out, where you see Cosmic Lad failing in his abilities, is he is worried about everything else. He does have good leadership skills, but he's also worrying a little too much about Saturn Girl, to where he is making good moves, keeping the right members of the team there. But you see where, and this is what I love about the subtlety, it isn't forced to where he's like, no, Saturn Girl, you don't go anywhere. But you see where he's subtly saying, I need you here, I need you there, when maybe he really didn't need her there that much. But it was sort of sound logic. But you can see there was a longing because there's like a. They
Well,
don't go into it, but a relationship between Cosmic Lad and Saturn Girl, obviously.
well, I was about to get to that, but yeah, it's kind of funny also that he didn't, kind of realize that maybe, oh, I don't know, using high levels of magnetism when there's already an electromagnetic storm pounding on the reactor would have been a very bad chemical reaction. Of course, it was going to cause something like that. But again, he's kind of in leadership mode right now, so he's not really. It's kind of funny because, like, if he was thinking like Bouncing Boy, he would have realized, yeah, maybe that wasn't the best plan. But anyways, yeah, he's kind of worried about Saturn Girl, so he tells her like, I think it would be safer for you to stay here, even though she wants to like go check on the citizens in the bunker. And this is kind of like creating a tug of war between him and Lightning Lad because Lightning Lad, is kind of getting pissed off with him for not trusting the team more. Which, strangely enough, this is actually a scene where Lightning Lad is kind of right because, again, Cosmic Lad has been gone for a long time, so he doesn't know what they've been through and the things that have happened. Like we saw a whole episode where Saturn Girl was basically in one of the worst situations where her psychic powers were being overloaded by all the wildlife, basically kind of giving her a psychic migraine. She was, trapped in that situation with Timberwolf when he was in his more feral state. And yet, she came out of it aces. In fact, she was critical in that mission.
Yeah.
Cosmic Lad doesn't know this because he hasn't had time to be briefed on those missions. And frankly, like even like the one with the space station feeding off of their fear.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, Lightning Lad is correct, and he's really not listening to his team. He's kind of just going off of what he perceives that he knows. In fact, it kind of reminds me of like the big argument against Artoria Pendragon in Fate Stay Night, where one of the biggest reoccurring gags is like the reason why her kingdom fell, and you can actually kind of go through this with the Banquet of Kings speech from Fate Zero. It's like, yes, surely in your lifetime you must have been something akin to the purest of souls, a saint even. You led your what was it? You saved your people, but you never led them, and what happens to the people when their savior is gone? The kingdom collapses.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what happened because, similar to the actual Arthurian legends, Artoria didn't really understand her own citizens. Lancelot, similar to like in the real story, he knew what he did was wrong and he wanted to be punished for it, but he was too good at, Arthur was too fond of him. He was too much of a friend. He couldn't bring himself to judge him. And of course, in Fate Stay Night, that causes him to go insane and become Berserker lot and basically try to kill Artoria to receive the judgment he deserves. When she, during the last battle in an alternate timeline, Bedivere is just so enamored with his king, he cannot bear himself to return the sword to the Lady of the Lake. This causes her, of course, to, without the holy sword that makes her immortal, now she's growing older. The spirit of the Holy Spirit, Rongo Miniad, takes over her body and turns her into a tyrant. And he has to spend like 1,500 years trying to get it back to her to save her. I mean, there's like just countless little things like that where over and over again, because she cannot understand the mindset of her subjects, things happen. Like with Mordred. She didn't understand, Mordred had all the tools to be an excellent knight and a proper heir. But because she was so ashamed of him being the bastard seed that was stolen from her by Morgan Le Fay, she shuns and pushes away Mordred, which drives him insane. He goes from being she, whatever, Fate Stay Night, goes from being enamored and blindly loyal and loving to her father to wanting to destroy his legacy. And it's kind of the same thing with Cosmic Lad. Cosmic Lad, he's been away for so long. He really has not understood what his team has been about since he's been gone. Again, Charles Xavier, anyone?
One again.
Yeah, I'm going to go into outer space and have hot furry sex with my alien bird girlfriend. You kids have fun now.
Well, again, it's like how you bring that up, and it was excellent continuity of the show because he was gone this entire time, and it's almost like if you want to bring it back to the very start of the show, this is why the Legion, which wasn't Lightning. I mean, because we were, like you said, this is focused on Lightning Lad, but it also devolves to all the other Legionnaires too. Is that you know, that this is why Saturn Girl, Bouncing Boy, Brainiac 5, and all of them, and Phantom Girl, they all decided this is why they needed Superman because their highest leader wasn't there. They needed some extra help.
Yeah.
The Legion is said throughout several episodes already, whether a lot of them are together or not, they've been spread too thin. The chaos and the universe has grown. This is why they went to get him. So this also leads back to that, which again,
This also kind of has an interesting tie to Justice League Unlimited, believe it or not, because one of the biggest things you'll kind of pick up on if you're watching with a discerning eye is that because Superboy is from the past, he's not from this world. He hasn't spent time with a lot of time with these people. He kind of acts as an independent voice. Whatever argument, whatever disagreement, he will always be the most neutral party because, well, I mean, he's disconnected from everything. He's from the past. This is all new to him. So, in a very real sense, he'll give the most fair and unbiased assessment of things because, honestly, he's got very little stake in the game. He's just there to help people. Interestingly enough, this is exactly why they brought in Green Arrow in Justice League Unlimited because Batman at that point already knew, he just didn't admit it, that he had become too emotionally compromised, too connected to the Justice League. And he wanted somebody who kind of had a very similar MO to him, no powers, an alternative mindset, somebody who could act as an impartial voice in terms of like matters of the league or interpersonal relationships or anything. And if you notice, there's a lot of episodes where Green Arrow is kind of like the intermediary. There's a conflict between two people. Somebody needs to be like the person who steps in and helps mitigate the crisis. And how many times do we see that that's Green Arrow? By the way, that's totally the reason why Batman insisted he join the League, because Batman already knew that he was, in his own mind, emotionally compromised by being too close to the League. So he brought in Green Arrow. Same deal with Superboy. Now, granted, they didn't do this on purpose, or maybe Brainiac did, and he just, didn't tell anyone. But that's kind of one of the biggest functions Superboy serves. He's kind of like how should I put this? Kind of like kind of like the referee, I guess. Kind of like the emotional referee. And we're kind of going to see that a little bit later on and in other future episodes. But that's kind of the fun thing about it. There's a lot of personalities clashing here. Like Lightning Lad, this is personal to him. And strangely enough, Cosmic Lad does have a point. He's too emotionally connected to this mission to see straight. He's flying off on his own. He's letting his emotions and his memories override his judgment. But Cosmic Lad is being too analytical. He's being too logical because, as we're going to find out thanks to Bouncing Boy, this storm is not a normal storm. It has a pattern. It's moving like it's being directed or guided. Guided, directed, maybe even caused. And of course, Bouncing Boy, having the bird's eye view from outer space of the storm, he's tracking the movements. He knows where it's going to strike and what it's trying to do. And guess what? Saturn Girl going to the bunker to try to calm down the people was a good idea because, as it turns out, that's where it's headed. So because the storm is interfering with their communications and their flight rings. She's able, with her psychic powers, to get the message from Bouncing Boy. But Bouncing Boy first needs to get a little bit of a pep talk from his girlfriend. All three of them. I love you, Bouncing Boy.
yeah,
Short King Supreme. But, Superman does try to, go into the storm, and as it turns out, lightning is not exactly super healthy for Superboy. Which, if you watch Superman the Animated Series, you would already know. Now, technically, yes, Superboy and Superman can be hurt by lightning because Superman is not he's not invincible. He's nigh invulnerable. Yeah, Tick fans are going to love the fact that I use that phrase. See, the thing is, he's extremely durable, even downright resistant or even able to absorb certain types of energy. But he's not immune. It's kind of the difference between immortality and invulnerability. Which, by the way, if you played Dragon Ball Tenkaichi, if you played the Zarbon story mode, yeah, you know the difference between that already. Superman can be hurt by just about anything. The only thing is, depending on the levels of solar radiation, depends on how good his durability and resistance will be. See, that's the thing. If you drain Superman's internal solar batteries enough, his superpowers will eventually wear thin, and he'll. In fact, one of the more recent retcons allows Superman to basically discharge all of his solar energy in a giant solar flare like explosion. This basically makes him a normal human for like 24 hours, by the way. And you can even see this in DC Universe Online on Steam, where in the opening cinematic in the kind of like post-apocalyptic timeline, Lex Luthor is basically going to war with the Justice League to taunt Superman to come back because all the battles have drained his solar energy reserves. And what happens? He finally gets Superman to come back, and he lances him with a kryptonite spear, which, as it turns out, was what Brainiac was waiting for. Good job, Lexi boy. You win and you lose all at once. But that's the thing. If Superman uses his powers too much over too long of a period, basically anything can take him out. And lightning, as it turns out, is one of the more effective ways to do this. Why? Because Superman's body is like a gigantic battery. And what happens when you overload a battery with too much energy? Damage, explosions. You know, like leaving a double A out in the sun for several hours in Arizona. Boom. Yeah, it's kind of the reason why Livewire was such a great villain. Not the smartest, but she did have a power that could actually affect Superman. Which is also the reason why he became an electric entity in the 90s, by the way. Yeah, the whole red blue thing. But anyways, yeah, that's the funny thing. So Superman finds out that, yeah, I can resist electricity, but I'm not immune to it. He kind of more or less passes out, and they have to scoop him up with a ship. And I love the fact that while they're doing this, like two of the triplicate girls are in the bridge helping out Bouncy Boy, but the orange one goes up to basically pull Superman into the ship so that he doesn't slide off. Because yeah, he'd probably survive re-entry, but it would definitely drain his powers. And considering the massive electrical storm downstairs, not a good idea. And she's basically Bouncy Boy realizes this storm is artificial. Somebody's not only generating it, or at least making it worse, but they're directing and guiding it. And he has a plan, but he's not confident anyone's going to listen to him. Well, Triplicate Girl gives him the ultimate pep talk. Oh god, I love Triplicate Girl. Best girl in the league. I'm sorry, not sorry. Anyways, yeah, so he's telling everybody, and it's like, but how are we gonna get get this information to them? Our communication rings won't work because yeah, they're flight rings and communicators, and it's like Saturn Girl. So they basically get the message to Saturn Girl. It's like, all of you guys, you have to listen to me. I know where the storm's gonna hit, and I have a plan to stop it. And it's actually brilliant too, because he basically, like they spent part of the episode trying to fix a hole in the dam, and he tells Colossal Boy, "I need you to make a hole in the dam so we can get some water going." And he's just looking at like the repair job he did. I was like, "Are you sure about this?" Yes, now. It's like, okay. And then he has like Superboy create a dish for the water to follow, and he's basically guiding the storm using I think they call it geoengineering or something like that in the science
Something like
community.
that, yeah.
But it's kind of brilliant because it's like right now they can't stop the storm. They don't know what's causing it, but they do know something is guiding it. So do the exact same thing. Guide it away from where you want to go. This is actually a practice that is incredibly old. I mean, we're talking like all the way back to the Babylonians, back to the start of agriculture. Hell, they actually had some really great talks about this during some of the class portions of Persona 4. Yeah, it's kind of frightening the shit I learned playing video games. But it's kind of neat, and all this, also this whole time we see Lightning Lad just focusing on his family's farm, trying to save it, trying to protect it, and it's kind of heartbreaking because all this time you think, oh, he's just like this street kid, he's like this kid who's probably from a bad neighborhood who's just got a chip on his shoulder. Nah, he's a farm kid. And even though he's probably spent most of his life trying to get away from the farm, you can see that he has a lot of love and respect for it. His childhood memories are there, his family. This is, even when you leave a place you've been trying to get out of, it's always with you. The memories, all of it. And in your own strange way, it's like even though you spent all your time trying to get away from it, years later you kind of look back on it and it's like, this was an important place to me. Even if I spent all this time getting away from it, I learned lessons, I made friends, and even sometimes situations that you absolutely hate or despise, sometimes years later you look back and it's like, I only worked this hard, I only did all this crazy shit because of it. And in your own strange sense, you feel a sense of gratitude. You almost look back on it, it's like I would not be who I am if it wasn't for this place or this time. And to Lightning Lad, that's what this is. He would not be the man he is if it wasn't for like what he learned on the farm. And you can see that he's trying to protect this place because it's more than a memory. It's home. And like they say in Fallout, all roads lead to home. And it's actually really sweet. And honestly, like once they finally, resolve the crisis, save the people in the bunker and all that, their Lightning Lad is just, he's reached maximum I do not give a shit. And it's like, you know what, Cosmic Lad, maybe we do need a new leader. And he cites the portion of the Legion Charter where they get to challenge for leadership. So they hold a vote. And guesses anybody, guess who wins? Will it be Cosmic Lad? Will it be Lightning Lad? Hey, maybe it'll be Saturn Girl. Nope, it's Bouncing Boy. Because, yeah, in that one moment where Bouncing Boy proved that he knew exactly what was going on and how to fix the problem, and, finally actually pointed out to people, please, hey, listen to me, this is why I'm on the team, everybody was incredibly impressed and respectful of it. And this is kind of the neat thing, the weird little difference in the mindset. And also, I think, and just color me crazy here, but I think it was probably Superman who may have floated this idea because this seems like something he would do. But I believe, maybe he was like, hey guys, what about Bouncing Boy? I mean, he was really impressive in this moment. And it's funny too, because like Cosmic Lad does have the intelligence, he has the analytical prowess, but he has people issues. Also, he kind of spends most of his time engaging in diplomacy with other worlds. So, as Lightning Lad said, powerful and useful as he is, he's kind of not there a lot. It's kind of like General Abernathy from G.I. Joe. You only see him every now and again. And it's never in the field of, and it's never in combat either. And then you've got like Lightning Lad. Yeah, he's good in the fight and his heart's in the right place, but he has a definite problem with the chain of command. Again, like the title said. Bouncing Boy, on the other hand, has kind of the best mix of both of these properties. His heart's in the right place, he knows when to act when it's necessary, but he also has a firm respect for rules and regulations. And heck, if you really want my opinion as to why he was the best choice for the leader, it kind of goes back to like something I mentioned earlier in the one where they were in that satellite that was feeding off their fear. You can see that Bouncing Boy has a lot of intelligence. He's a very intelligent, analytical, and technical kind of guy. He's kind of gotten, in a sense, in my opinion, like an interesting mix almost of like Hank McCoy, Beast from the X-Men, and for any of you who know who this is, Puck from Alpha Flight. Because Puck kind of has the same similar powers. He's kind of like the small, very strong and agile guy. He's not like hyper intelligent on Alpha Flight, but he is kind of like the heart of the group. He gets everybody organized. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to rally the team. He's kind of that guy. Like combine the best qualities of both of those individuals, and you kind of get Bouncing Boy with kind of similar powers, strangely enough. And I mean, we know he's smart. He's arguably the top mechanic and engineer for the team. He's their best pilot. Apparently, the dude's got some crazy fucking riz to land Triplicate Girl, which love. And we know that he's honestly a very sweet, kind, compassionate person who worries about people. I mean, heck, he was the only guy we saw actually talk to the people who didn't make the cut in that one episode. And we know he's friends with them because they mentioned that they not only know him, but that they've been following his career ever since he first tried out. So, honestly, to me, he kind of reminds me of Deku Midoriya from My Hero Academia. He's kind of that guy, and strangely enough, it's kind of the best fit for the Legion. Now, granted, he does have social awkward issues because when he mentions, I won, I won, I won, yes! And it's a sweet scene, but it honestly does kind of show that even though the Legion is kind of a little chaotic in terms of how they operate sometimes, they are a bit of a found family. They love each other, they work together, and sometimes they drive each other crazy, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. We're all just a bunch of goofballs living together, working together, and trying our hardest to be better. And honestly, we get to see my favorite scene, Lightning Lad hugging his family. And interestingly enough, they don't mention his big brother. In fact, nobody there does. That tells you a lot. But then there's perhaps the bigger issue, because like Boku mentioned, somebody was generating this storm and directing it. And right as the Legion hyperspaces out of that planet, we see a boom tube open up. And somebody piloting it looking like they're very connected to their ship. I mean, chances are, if you're familiar with New Gods and their mythology and also like the Fourth World and Jack Kirby, chances are, fans out there are already putting the pieces together because there's not exactly a whole lot of techie dudes on Apocalypse, but there are a few. And I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm fairly certain comic book nerds know exactly who it probably is. And also, why would he be harassing the planet that, I don't know, produces most of the agriculture, happens to be the home of Lightning Lad? I don't know, but we might have some fun finding out next time.
Okay, characters, Jherick.
Oh man, now this one's a loaded one. Oof, man. You know, Lightning Lad. I really loved Lightning Lad in this episode.
Yep, I did too, and Andy Milder.
And I mean, he's good in every episode, but this one in particular was great.
Well, yeah, well, because he really let shine in this thing, yeah.
Let's see, who else? Number two, I'm giving to Saturn Girl. She didn't get a lot in this episode, but what she got was definitely effective.
Yeah, since you mentioned her, where is she? Well, Saturn Girl and Triplicate Girl, Carrie Walgren.
Yeah, how ironic, because Triplicate Girl's my third pick.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, again, she didn't get a whole lot, but like the pep talk she gives with to Bouncy Boy, and seeing her kind of go full mom, trying to help Superboy and try to get him to not overexert himself. This is actually one of the fun things about Triplicate Girl because, like we said, when she splits into three, all three of them take on different aspects of her personality. Kind of tends to happen with like super mutants who do that.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I had to give it to, I mean, there were a lot of good ones in this one, but I have to give it to also Bouncing Boy Michael Cornacchia for my top pick, because seeing him sort of take command and get the others to follow his lead was actually well done, and I actually liked what they did, and it was just really cool seeing him come into his own in this one, plus the shock of him winning the Legion leader, and it's like, wanting it but not wanting it, and knowing if he'll do okay, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where the episodes go forward. Plus, I will give a small thing because it was a good role. I mean, it was big, but not like stand out to me. But I will give a small nod to a Cosmic Boy, Will Wheaton, and Feral Lad, Dave Wittenberg, because they were good roles, but just small enough to them, and was there. But also the reason why I will give it to Will Wheaton is he did give that spark of how he's the leader, but yet there was somewhat of an unbridled arrogance, but also the unfactored rivalry between him and Lightning Lad, and just all those things that came into it. But those are mine. And then overall, I enjoyed the episode. It's obviously leading to something bigger. What about you, Jherick?
And I mean, just a few like mild thoughts. Some of you, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you out there are probably big comic nerds like we are. Probably not too surprised that Cosmic Lad, being Magneto Boy, is kind of a little bit of a prick sometimes. Which, by the way, seems to be a consistent habit with people who have magnetic powers. I'd imagine the whole, manipulating the magnetic spectrum probably causes more than a few chemical imbalances upstairs. Because remember, you do have iron and other magnetized metals floating around in your head, helping to keep your brain fed. So you have to imagine that's probably the reason why, what's his name, Dr. Polaris keeps going schizophrenic all the time. Or why Polaris, the daughter of Magneto, can't seem to decide whether she's a good guy or a bad guy 9 times out of 10, or why she's dating the biggest douchebag in the X-Men, Havoc. Yeah, I know, right? The biggest asshole the Summers family is dating the daughter of Magneto. Shocker, I know. And then there's just other fun little things in this episode, like Feral Lad not wanting to take off his mask, Lightning Lad not wanting to trust him because, well, and again, I don't want to, I'll give Street Fighter 4 credit for this. There's a fun interaction between El Fuerte and Blanca where El Fuerte, in Mexico, wearing a mask is like the symbol of the luchador hero. Well, in South America, that's a symbol of a criminal and a bank robber. So I love how Blanca's like, "Who are you? Only bad men wear masks." "What? Lay off the mask, amigo." It's actually really cute and hilarious, and I fucking love it. But it's kind of the same thing because people who live out in the farm country, well, the only time you see a person wearing a balaclava like that is when they're there to rob you. So I ain't gonna lie, that was actually kind of funny. And also, yeah, there is a reason why he wears the mask. You really don't want him to take it off. Colossal Boy, he's actually, one of my favorite Legionnaires because even though his power is basically, growing like Hank Pym, he's actually kind of got a personality closer to Colossus. He's just a really sweet dude. And again, just everything in this episode just kind of works. Saturn Girl getting upset that Cosmic Lad is underestimating her capabilities. Lightning Lad actually showing us more of his humanity and depth. Superboy catching on to how much of a sticking point being a farm boy was for Lightning Lad, and Bouncy Boy getting to have his moments. Which, by the way, that's actually kind of a thing for the Legion, because Bouncing Boy is kind of similar to like Hank McCoy, or again, kind of similar to Puck from Alpha Flight. You think, yeah, this dude's just, an agile little know-it-all who bounces around. It's like, just let this dude loose in the lab or let him handle analytics. You'll find out. But that's what I love about Bouncing Boy. You think he's a nobody, but he comes in clutch so many times in the comics and in the books. And as a last aside, there's some interesting things about Bouncing Boy. Now, I'm not sure if they'll do this in this cartoon because, it's kind of been a while since I've seen it. But there's a reoccurring joke in the comics that almost every iteration of Lightning Lad at some point will lose his arm and get a cybernetic replacement. There's also another weird habit with this character where, for some reason, they kind of alternate between him being white or black. Yeah, in the 90s, he was a black Lightning Lad, and then they kind of went back to white again, and then back to black. It's kind of like a Kid Flash situation with him. But he's not the only one they do that with.
Wasn't that when they were trying to make him related to Black Lightning?
Yeah, well, he was like the descendant of Black Lightning, which was just like, really?
Well, I mean, hey, at least they were trying to make Black Lightning have a lineage, which I thought was cool at the time, but...
I mean, he kind of already did. It's just, yeah. Yeah, I mean, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Black Lightning's one of those heroes they've been trying to push hard for like over 40 years, along with like Firestorm, Cyborg. And, they are good characters, but yeah, they've never really pulled it off.
Well, now, depending on which lore you read, because I found out perusing online, Black Lightning is now mostly related to Static Shock, and Virgil Hawkins is actually that's his uncle or cousin. I forget what the fuck that is, but I'm like, see, that makes a little bit more sense ever since Static Shock got put in. Black Lightning and Static Shock being related is like, so maybe it wasn't just the mutant power thing of the Bang Baby.
Well, and that's the thing because Black Lightning also kind of got his powers on accident too. So again, but you have to remember, people, there's a reason why DC fans sometimes refer to DC as being discontinued continuity.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I guess that's pretty much it in a nutshell. But this is Owen Tuboku,
Your favorite jackass going back to the farm.
and then we'll see you guys again later for another review. All right. See ya.
Adios.